Very good. So I would like to reconvene the meeting from the closed session and call this meeting to order for the City Council meeting of February 16th, 2021. Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Councilmember Cordero?
Here.
All right. Councilmember Escobedo?
Here.
Councilmember Soto?
Here.
Councilmember Waterfield? Here. Madam Mayor Patino?
Here. City Attorney, Mr. Watson, could you please give us a closed session report?
Yes. Instructions were provided to the agency negotiator, Mr. McCune, regarding the property in question. Any agreement would come back to the City Council on a consent item.
Thank you. As there are no proclamations this evening, the first item on our agenda is the public comment period. Madam Clerk, could you please read the criteria for public comment portion of the agenda?
Yes, Madam Mayor and council members. This time is reserved to accept comments from the public on consent agenda items, closed session items, or matters not otherwise scheduled on the printed agenda this evening. Unless otherwise directed by the mayor, speakers will have 3 minutes to comment. Direction to staff may be given. However, state law does not allow action to be taken on matters not on the printed agenda this evening.
Do we have any written comments or requests to speak this evening?
Yes, Madam Mayor. Staff has received one written communication from Mr. Kevin Murray expressing concerns about transient encampments along the railroad and is requesting assistance to alleviate the problem. This communication was forwarded via email to the City Council, and a hard copy was provided on the dais this evening. And we have Ms. Julia Black on the line, who I believe wished to make some comments to Council.
Thank you.
Hello, good evening, Madam Mayor Patino and council members. My name is Julia Black-DeVray, Marketing and Communications Officer for Domestic Violence Solutions for Santa Barbara County. I would like to make a brief statement in support of Teen Dating Violence Awareness Month. Dating violence is more common than you think, especially among teens and young adults. 1 in 2 teens in our community experiences physical, sexual, digital, and/or emotional abuse from someone they're in a relationship with every day, and most do not ask for help or know how to help a friend. Dating violence can have serious physical, mental, and academic impacts. Young people who experience abuse are more likely to be in physical fights or bring weapons to school. They exhibit higher rates of drug and alcohol abuse, as well as high-risk sexual behaviors. They are also 5 times more likely to attempt suicide. In an effort to stop dating abuse before it starts, every February we join with young people, schools, parents, educators, and community leaders across the country for a national effort to raise awareness about teen dating violence. This year, our message is Know Your Worth, helping young folks to believe they are worthy of abuse-free, loving relationships. At Domestic Violence Solutions, we know prevention works to help prevent and end this abuse. Please continue to learn about the importance of relationship education, share this awareness, and invest in prevention. Thank you so much for your time this evening.
And thank you very much for that message. Is that the?
Thank you.
Thank you. Is that the conclusion then of the
Yes,
public
I don't
comment?
have any other requests to
Okay.
speak at this time.
Before we move on, Mr. Stillwell, did you want to make any comments?
Sure. Thank you, Madam Mayor. We are in receipt of Mr. Murray's written correspondence entitled Transient Assistance. We're aware of the issue, and we are following up to remedy the situation.
Thank you. Moving on to the consent calendar, Madam Clerk, could you please read item number 3?
Routine items are presented for City Council approval without discussion as a single agenda item in order to expedite the meeting. The consent calendar is approved by roll call vote with one motion. These items are discussed only on the request of council members.
Okay. Do I have anyone that wishes to pull anything for discussion?
I do, Madam Mayor. Item 3E.
Ms. Soto, 3E.
I have a question for staff and would like to, just a
Sure,
question for
go
staff.
ahead.
I see that this Santa Maria police vehicle that we're wanting to purchase is is going to be paid for via an anonymous donation, correct? My question is, was this a solicited ask, and where is there a need for this vehicle?
Sorry, the question was what?
Oh, was this like a solicited ask, or and is there a need for this particular vehicle?
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Councilmember Soto. So it is a need we've had identified in the police department. It replaces an outdated vehicle that has been functionally obsolete. And so this allows us to have two similar vehicles. It'll ease our maintenance and be able to provide additional rescue capability and officer safety and public safety out in the field. And it is funded through a donation, but there was a match that we're able to use special revenues for as well with, I think it was, Senate 141 funds, which are, what do we call it? Yeah, asset forfeiture, that's right. So we have identified asset forfeiture funding that we're able to use for certain purchases, and we're able to match the donation with those funds in order to make this purchase.
And if we don't make the purchase, does that match go away? Like, do we lose out on the opportunity of using those match funds for something else, or?
Well, we do have ongoing asset forfeiture funds that we're able to use for purchases such as this. Yeah, thank you.
Madam Mayor, if there's no other questions or polls, I'd like to adopt the consent calendar as submitted.
Okay, do I have a second?
I second.
I have a motion and I have a second to approve the consent calendar. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Councilmember Waterfield.
Aye.
Councilmember Escobedo.
Hi.
Councilmember Cordero. Aye. Councilmember Soto.
Aye.
Madam Mayor Patino.
Aye. Next, we have a presentation. Madam Clerk, could you please read the title?
The City Council will receive a presentation on the California Public Utilities Commission by Christopher Moore, the local government liaison for the City of Santa Maria. And I believe he is on our Zoom, ready to go. And I will ask him. There you go.
Yes, I'm here. Should I share my screen?
Yes, sir. You could share your screen.
Okay. Thank you very much for having me today. My name is Christopher Moore, and I'm local government and community liaison with the California Public Utilities Commission. The commission is commonly referred to as the CPUC. I'm part of an outreach team that has liaisons across the state, and I work with Central Coast cities and counties, as well as community groups from San Luis Obispo down to LA County. The goal of this very short presentation is to make sure that the council is aware of how it can be a resource. First, a little bit of background on the agency. The CPUC was created in 1911 by constitutional amendment to rein in the power of the Southern Pacific Railroad, namely the rates it charged. A common practice at the time was for the railroad to take a look at farmers' books in order to determine the rates they would pay to get their goods to market. CPUC's authority was soon expanded to include investor-owned monopolies in the energy, water, and telecommunication sectors. This authority has evolved with these industries as well as public priorities. For example, rail freight now has substantial competition, so we no longer regulate rates. And our role is largely confined to safety. In the energy sector, rates are still significant and of significant public interest, but we also have substantial new responsibilities regarding state climate goals, as well as regulating wildfire risk and the public health risk from public safety power shutoffs. In recent history, we've gained oversight over the transportation network companies such as Uber and Lyft, and given up our oversight authority over household good movers and hot air balloon charter companies. High-profile decisions this year have included those around PG&E's bankruptcy exit, requiring 72-hour backup power and resiliency plans from wireless providers, expanding the universal telephone service program known as Lifeline to cover higher mobile data allowances and subsidies for voice-over internet. We've put the grid on the path to exceed 60% of generation with renewables by 2035 and have put in measures to support the interconnection and commercialization of microgrids to make communities more resilient during wildfires. In this year, we will continue to scrutinize utility public safety power shutoff practices, increase grid reliability, build specifications for utility pole database, advance transportation electrification, and look into further customer protections for solar customers, improve physical and cybersecurity for the electric grid, and determine whether utilities should subsidize all electric buildings with ratepayer dollars. PG&E is expected to file for rate increases for the test year 2023 in June of this year, and Golden State Water is also expected to file. These upcoming decisions will be voted on by a 5-member commission who are appointed by in staggered terms by the governor and subject to Senate approval. These decisions are subject to a number of formal requirements and must be completed in the framework of what is called a proceeding, which can look like a series of legislative hearings or more like a court case, depending on what the proceeding concerns. For example, when it comes to the best policies for making sure that Uber and Lyft provide wheelchair accessible vehicles or minimizing the impact of public safety power shutoffs, we try to encourage robust debate among stakeholders. When it comes to investigating utility malfeasance and potentially assessing substantial fines, however, the proceeding looks much more like a court case with evidentiary hearings and strict rules on communications between parties and the presiding administrative law judge and commissioner. To inform these proceedings, we depend on participation from stakeholder groups known as parties. If the City of Santa Monica would like to join a proceeding or otherwise provide comment to the CPUC, I'm here to assist. I can also connect city officials with our staff. We're a pretty small agency, a little over 1,000 people, so it's actually pretty easy to connect with us and learn and share opinions with our staff and management once you know who to talk to, which of course I can assist with. Your city manager does have my information and does use me as a resource. A couple of years ago, he raised concerns about several failed 911 calls within the city that were traced back to Verizon Wireless's network. I met with the responsible staff in our communications division to bring it to our attention. City staff have also been in communication with our rail crossings and engineering branch regarding a proposed at-grade crossing at Carmen Lane. He also brought to my attention that Santa Maria has frequently notified that PG&E has considered deactivating circuits that serve the city as part of its public safety power shutoff protocols. I'll stop here out of respect for your time and see if the council would like further background or has any questions on these issues or any others that are within our jurisdiction. I'm always happy to come back anytime and present more extensively on topics that the council finds of interest.
Any questions from the dais?
I do have one,
Mr.
Madam Mayor.
Escobedo?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, thank you for the presentation. This is Carlos Escobedo. And I would like, you mentioned that there might be an increase in PG&E rates. Do we know what we're looking at?
At this time, it would be hard to say. What will happen is they will put in an application with us based on what they anticipate their spending to be from 2023 to 2027. That will be presented to us. We will have various local governments as well as nonprofits, as well as an independent internal unit we call the public advocates will all become parties to that proceeding. And essentially there'll be filings from PG&E, opposition filings from, say, the public advocates who represent ratepayers, as well as ratepayer groups such as the Utility Reform Network. And there's going to be an argument back and forth. What will happen is the judge and assigned commissioner will eventually come up with a decision, which will either allow some or all of PG&E's rate requests.
And do you guys have a deadline to submit that, or how in terms of time, how long would that process be?
So the process, I believe, will be about 1.5 years. It will go through. So what will happen is June, we anticipate the filing, and I can keep the city abreast. I think that probably that would be a good reason for me to come back once the filing's in. What will happen is once the filing comes in, the assigned administrative law judge will write a scoping memo, which will lay out the time frame for the proceeding, and it will have sort of a schedule of when there'll be hearings. There'll be some sort of public participation hearing, as well as time frames for submitting comments and reply comments.
Thank you.
Mr. Moore, this just sort of piqued my interest, but you said hot air balloons?
Yeah, that was, we lost hot air balloons. Because we had jurisdiction over them. Because they're a charter passenger company, it's sort of a legacy of us doing transit from initially rail, charter buses, limousines also are required to get licensing with us. It was decided that hot air balloons weren't necessarily, could be moved to another agency.
How many hot air balloons are there?
I don't know. I know they're up in Napa because I see them when I go up there. Thank you. Any other questions from the dais? Mr. Stillwell, did you have any questions or comments?
No, not at this time, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And I guess we'll be hearing from you again, Mr. Moore.
Yes, I thank you very much for hosting me, and thank you for your time.
And thank you for your time. Next, we have a regular business item. Madam Clerk, could you please read the title? Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Stillwell. Okay, yeah, we have a presentation. I'm sorry, I was going ahead. I was really rushing this meeting.
That's okay. Before you go on,
Yes.
Madam Mayor, we'll make sure we provide you with the slides from Mr. Moore's presentation.
Thank you.
Okay. The next item is the City Council will receive the 8th presentation from the City Manager to provide an update regarding the coronavirus COVID-19 and the actions being taken by the city to assist with stopping the spread and keeping the community safe in the Santa Maria Valley.
Mr. Stillwell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and members of the City Council. It has been a little bit of a while since we have provided an update. I think the last one was in October, so there's a number of new pieces of information that we can provide. We also have Sue Anderson from Marion Hospital here. And so I'll talk about the status of the virus, the restrictions. Let me get the clicker, actually.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So I could speak to the status of the virus, restrictions, the vaccination status, education compliance, and then Ms. Anderson plans to talk about the state of the hospital, COVID admissions, testing positivity in our area, vaccines, and where we're at with that. Reminder to continue to be diligent, and either one of us can answer questions that council might have. So first, with the status of the COVID virus in the community. Over the past 2 weeks, active cases have decreased countywide by 51%, but deaths have increased by 26%. Hospitalizations have decreased 27%, and the ICU rates have dropped 20%. That's countywide. Ms. Anderson will have more specifics with Santa Maria. You can see on the chart on the top, we've had over 10,000 total confirmed cases just in Santa Maria, and 132 deaths with 275 people infectious in our community. And this is data coming out of the winter break, so we're seeing the spike that you can see on the graph there and the spike in numbers. The 7-day rolling sum of new cases is it's based on the episode date when a 7-day lag occurs. We've seen this trend continuing downward. So that's a positive sign as, again, as we exit the winter holiday period, we're seeing cases decline. The weekly death count, unfortunately, we've lost more community members in 2021 to death of COVID or from COVID than we have lost in the entire year of 2020. So we did have quite a bit of spike following the winter holidays. As far as the city itself, we are still what the law terms essential workers. So we have been at work throughout the pandemic. Even during the shutdowns, we've still been able to be at work, provide services to the community. We remain open. We have modified services in a number of ways. The most recent modification is the new mandate for masks, face masks. We have to have fitted masks. We have to have further distancing from our coworkers. We still have the cleaning stations throughout. We still have other mitigations that you'll see. One of the bigger mitigations is the new finance building across the street. we basically had to redo our entire finance department and utility billing operation in order to make it safe for people to come and pay their utility bills. We're fortunate, though, we have had no on-site outbreak of COVID through this whole period of time with everyone coming to work. With the spike in COVID throughout our community, we're really proud to still have no on-site outbreak, and it's a great testament to our employees. We have staff out here contacting the public every single day, providing emergency response, doing their work, supporting the community, and they're being safe in their workplace and not causing a spread throughout the workplace. And, the budget impacts have exacerbated our employee impacts. So we do still have employees who have contracted COVID in the community, just like other people have contracted it. We've had employees who have had to quarantine and be away from work because they've risked exposure. And so those vacancies, coupled with just the stress of people continuing to provide the work as essential workers, and then the budget impacts of having vacancies has been difficult for the employees, but I commend them on the work they've continued to do to stay safe and continue to provide service. We are in the purple tier, and just at first, though, I continue to remind how to avoid the spread. There are 3 categories the county has for safe activities. One's to avoid activities that are group gatherings, having visitors in your home. Have caution when you're visiting the grocery store, picking up medications. And then it's safe to have dinner at your home, play in your yard, go for a drive, other things where you don't come in contact with people. The purple tier is, or I should step back, on December 6th, the state announced that all counties within the region where ICU bed capacity drops below 15% were placed in a more restrictive regional stay-at-home order for 3 weeks. So that was from December 6th till January 25th, the regional order was lifted. And so we reverted back to the tier system that I had last reported to the council last year. And so we are in the purple tier and back in the blueprint for the safe economy as set by the state. And on January 26th, the county public health officer issued a county health officer order updating our purple tier, reverting back to the system. And so that superseded the health order for the stay-at-home orders. And so you could see from the map, most of the state is still in the purple tier, which means widespread virus throughout the community. And this chart here shows the 7-day average adjusted per case rate per 100,000, and you can see the large spike. We are most definitely still in the purple tier, not close to getting down to the red tier, but you do see a sharp decline trend that we hope will continue. We'll see how it goes with Super Bowl and other activities, but so far we are continuing to see a downward trend. And optimistic that if people stay safe, maintain social distancing, we'll be able to get back to the red tier and have additional reduction in restrictions for our ability to shop and have our economy open up more. So what is open during the purple tier? So we've been here before and last fall. Most of the services have to be provided outdoor only, with restaurants, retailers and grocery stores can be open, but with only 25% capacity. Churches were only allowed to be open outdoor, but there's a recent Supreme Court decision that allows them to then be in the retail tier, essentially. Gyms have to be outdoor, and personal services can be provided with modified service delivery. And as we'll move through from the purple tier to the red tier, these operations that are now outdoor will be able to move indoor at a rate between 10 to 25%. So the new places of worship guidelines, we are in the purple tier, so that allows 25% capacity. Even as we have fewer cases of COVID, move to the red tier, places of worship will still be required to have no more than 25% capacity. And so this allows places of worship, which include churches, mosques, synagogues, and temples, to be able to have indoor cultural facilities or ceremonies such as weddings, funerals, Other restrictions and guidance remain in place, such as having the mitigation measures such as social distancing, masking, and keeping the areas clean. The state still has their Blueprint for Safer Economy website, covid19.ca.gov/safer-economy, where people can go and look at what our county, you type in Santa Barbara County, and you're able to see, you can put in what your business is and see what the restrictions are. So it's more of a tailored, specialized ability for us to see what we can open and what services are available now. And there's also a table that shows what's allowed. You can see this as well. It's not as specific as that prior website can be if someone's looking for specific information, but this will show the different types of uses, such as, in this case here, a hair salon says they can be open indoors with modifications with a 25% capacity for retailers. You can go down the list there. For the vaccinations, the vaccination production is slowly increasing in the United States. I look forward to hearing what Sue Anderson has to say. She probably has more current information, and she's on the front lines there with the vaccinations. We are in a phased approach to try to ensure providing vaccinations to high-risk community members first as distribution of the vaccine continues. Santa Barbara County had a vaccination plan with the intent of preparing the county for a phased implementation, but then on January 26th, the California Department of Public Health announced a revised approach to more equitably distribute vaccine based on age. And so the future groups of vaccination will be eligible based on age. And it's a little bit of a challenge. There are a couple challenges. One is in Santa Barbara County, they weren't able to have enough vaccine even to target the 75 and older, and now the state's dropped it to 65 and older, so it's just more people eligible to be vaccinated with no additional vaccine available. So, and then another challenge we have as an organization is obviously we don't define our work groups by age. We have work groups that are out there doing tasks, and they're all of different age, and so it makes it a little tougher for us as an organization to vaccinate, say, a paramedic team or a fire response team that's out there, because some of them, well, actually that's a bad example because fire response is in the tier 1, but say our payroll staff. Our payroll staff's going to be key in order to pay those firefighters and our other employees, and we don't have that payroll team of the same age, and so some of them can be vaccinated before another, and they have to work as a team in order to work effectively to pay our employees. So it's a little challenging for us. We like the tiering system they had before, where you focus on the type of work the person does and the risk that work entails. But nevertheless, we're now in an age-based priority for eligibility of the vaccine. The county has received 61,000 doses, and about 21% of those, 12,000, 13,000, have gone to clinics. 19% of the doses have gone to public health vaccine sites. 4% have gone to healthcare providers. About 50% have gone to hospitals, and about 7% has gone to pharmacies. The future eligibility for vaccination, as I mentioned, so the beginning in mid-February, they'll go to the age-based. So that'll be healthcare providers, the phased 1B folks. So those are the essential workers that are right on the front line, plus the tier 61 and over age group, and education and child care workers, emergency service workers, and food and agricultural workers will be eligible. And people can make appointments if the vaccine's available, and contact their local health departments, or they can contact their local health department for the vaccinations and follow the state set priority. One other challenge is, this slide's a little tough to read, but if over on the far left is 0 people, on the right next to the green bar is 160,000. And so this shows that in this next phase that I just described, there's 160,000 people eligible to be vaccinated in Santa Barbara County. And recall, we've only had 61,000 vaccination doses to date. So 100,000 doses a month. So and I should also say, of the 160,000 people eligible, they'll need 2 vaccinations, so that's actually 320,000 doses. So if we were at 100,000 doses a month, it would take 6 months to vaccinate just that group that I just talked about, the 65 and older and those other eligible workers. We're now receiving 20 to 30,000 doses a month, and we do get allocations every Tuesday in the county. I don't believe they know ahead of time how much they're going to get, but Santa Barbara County is getting its fair share of doses. It's not as if another county or area is getting more, but it's just there's a shortage of vaccination overall. Another question that comes up is, okay, I've been vaccinated, now what? And so the short answer is continue to provide the social mitigation measures, wear a mask, stay 6 feet apart, wash your hands, because even if you're vaccinated and you can't necessarily get sick, you're still able to carry the virus maybe in your nose or otherwise, and that can still pass it on to someone who hasn't been vaccinated. We also receive a number of questions about education and compliance. The structure that we're working within is the county is coordinating education, outreach, and enforcement. They've developed a RISE Ambassador program that includes inviting all the cities to host teams within their jurisdiction, as well as the county managing teams for the unincorporated county. It's designed to work with the city. It's designed to have the county folks work with the city on regulatory enforcement efforts. And these more enhanced enforcement efforts include a shared tracking mechanism, additional education and outreach, utilization of formal warnings of violation, and a variety of administrative, civil, and criminal enforcement actions that can be utilized. And the county hosts an online complaint form that allows community members and businesses to bring non-compliance complaints to the county's attention. So one question would be, how are we receiving complaints? Why are we enforcing certain rules against businesses in the city? And fundamentally, the complaints go to the county. County responds to the complaint and notifies us of the complaint for us to be able to partner with them. So we don't get the complaint specifically, and so we're not able to immediately respond to them, but we do respond with the county when we're notified. As far as how enforcement works, so recognizing it's a pandemic and there's regulations in place, and we're not governed in a way where we can enforce all the regulations. We recognize that government alone is unable to simply gain compliance through enforcement alone. One of the more important questions is for people to the people themselves have the power and authority with the residents and the businesses in town to abide by the health restrictions. And we hope that people do heed the health restrictions, because there is true loss and impact to the residents in our community. We are a city that we are following the law. We are enforcing health guidelines, but we're primarily treating the health orders as an opportunity to educate, to keep our people safe and healthy, and to avoid overburdening our healthcare system and healthcare workers. One other question that comes up is about the temporary tents in the back of restaurants. This slide's busy, but the point of it was to show that the state fire marshals published information bulletins regarding the use of heaters and temporary tents and awnings. The county has focused an enforcement action on the temporary structures. And part of the state regulation through the county is to have the local fire agencies be the front of the line in order to notify the businesses of the risk with tents. And so the regulations we have is for those temporary tents, those white tents that you'll see at restaurants, if they're over 400 square feet in size, they'll need a permit. And primarily they need to not be right against the lot line. They need to have fire extinguishers. They need to have no open flame, no outdoor cooking. If they're smaller than 400 square feet, they don't need a permit. And you'll notice that these aren't necessarily COVID restrictions. They're just really restrictions to make sure that if people are in a tent, that the tent ventilates properly, it has a fire extinguisher, and there's no unwarranted fire risk with that tent. So it's a balance, it's a challenge. The COVID restrictions require business to be outside. We recognize it's cold, and if they're going to be outside in a tent, they want to be warm, but we also want to make sure that the tent is able to be safe. In addition, there's the State Fire Marshal also published an information bulletin regarding the use of heaters. So a lot of the common heaters we see are those outdoor patio heaters, but there are other forced air and electric heating appliances that are able to warm up these temporary tents and not be a risk. The county continue to have its reopening process, and this is an opportunity for businesses to understand what they need to do to provide safety as a business to reopen to their employees and to their customers. And the county has a whole list there on recoverysbc.org/reopen-your-business. And it allows businesses to be able to complete the attestation form, show the public that they're safe for reopening, and having mitigation measures in place such as sanitizers. And the map on the county website also shows which businesses have complied with the recertification or the reopening certification attestation, and you'll see a number of businesses in Santa Maria have done that. And so that's a good indication that the education that we have been focusing on is getting out to the community. They understand what they need to do to be able to continue their business and safely open. Our Chamber of Commerce continues to be a resource for businesses. They're here to help businesses reopen at santamaria.com/safe-and-open. And the Chamber website also includes the current information and quick links to a reopening toolkit, where to get personal protective equipment, and how to safely reopen with news and assistance form and a business directory. The city also, at the end of last year, completed a small business assistant grant. We committed $125,000 of city funds to this effort, and the Santa Barbara Foundation matched that with another $125,000. It enabled us to provide a number of small grants to our local businesses to help them either pay rent, make mitigations, or other costs in order to be able to survive and help them make it through the pandemic. More recently, the state and the county has offered emergency rental assistance. This funding can also be used for utility billing assistance if people can't pay either their rent or their utility bill. The state administers $14.3 million for Santa Barbara County. And then the county has an additional $13.3 million in direct funding for local rental assistance. And if people in the county want to get this rental assistance, United Way is the administrator of the program, and they're at www.unitedwaysb.org/rent. And the county program, of the two, the county program will be able to be implemented more quickly and more rapidly and get the funding to the people more rapidly. And then finally, the Protect, Respect, Repeat program continues of encouraging people to wear masks. And before we go to questions, I think Sue Anderson's on the line too.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Good evening, Sue.
Okay. Thank you, Jason and Mayor Patino, for inviting me. And Jason, I think mine flows right from yours because everything you said is accurate and what we're dealing with. So from a hospital side, our current daily inpatient COVID positive inpatients were over 100 at one time, and now we're at about half of that or less. You know, everything they predicted that would happen after the holidays, after Thanksgiving, Christmas did. I mean, we just saw every single day we were getting probably anywhere from 12 to 17 new inpatients every day with COVID. And obviously that impacts a hospital greatly, very quickly. Now we're down to about we still have about 4 to 6 new inpatients every day with COVID, so it's still out there in our community, but luckily it's not at the rate that it was. As I've discussed here before, we're very fortunate that we have our original hospital building as well as our newer hospital building. And at the very beginning of the pandemic, which was a year ago now, we opened up all the old hospital building. We opened up another 48 beds there, and we've been using those almost full time since COVID began. The thing I would tell the community is that our employees and physicians are very tired. Many have worked extra shifts, to the point of where they're working, hundreds of extra hours. And this has been going on for a year for some of them. And it's obviously a hard thing to day after day be taking care of COVID patients, some who are very sick. And unfortunately, like Jason showed, some that don't get better. Many of our patients, luckily, most of our patients do get better and do leave the hospital. But it's a tough grind for all the nurses and doctors that have been dealing with this day after day, and our respiratory therapists and housekeepers and everybody. So, I just stress to the community that please, for their sake as well as yours, we'd like to not see you come in with COVID, and we'd like you to mask up and still do the social distancing and meet with friends outside, play it safe. We're getting better, definitely, and we want to keep it there. Our worry is always, Super Bowl, that the numbers could jump back up very quickly. As we said, our numbers are definitely calming down, but they're not at zero, that's for sure. We still have a number of patients in-house with COVID. We also are taking care of other patients because obviously all the other ailments that are in the community are not going away. So we've been very busy with COVID and non-COVID patients. We're lucky we have plenty of supplies. If you remember early on, that was the big issue, was having enough supplies, but we have plenty of supplies. We're here to take care of the community. And in fact, in a lot of cases, like our emergency room is ready and available, but it's seeing still about 30% less patients than they saw prior to the COVID outbreak a year ago. This week, we opened our visitor policy. Up till now, we haven't allowed visitors in the hospital all throughout the holidays, unfortunately, because we couldn't risk it. We had way too many patients here. And this week, we now are allowing 1 visitor per patient. So that's nice. We were very happy to do that. We also temperature check everyone coming in, and our staff and physicians, by a large majority, have been vaccinated and have gotten both vaccinations. So the hospital is a very safe place to be. Testing, as you probably know, is not the issue it once was, where everybody was scrambling to get testing. Now there's multiple locations throughout the community where you can get testing and get fairly fast testing. And then, this week too, we're opening up our surgeries again to elective surgeries. For the past few weeks, we've had to limit the number of elective surgeries. So I apologize to those of you waiting for joint replacements or other surgeries, but we're now reopening to a lot of those. So hopefully we'll get back caught up and get those done shortly. On vaccines, everything Jason said is really what we're experiencing too. We've been providing vaccines to our community. We're one of the vaccine locations. We've given probably about 7,000 to over 75-year-olds. And this week we are opening up to over 65-year-olds. We're following the county guidance, which is to open up to the 65 plus. As Jason showed, the problem that we have right now in our community, in every community, but in our community specifically, Santa Barbara has 160,000 that are in tiers 1A and 1B, and 41,000 of those people are between 65 and 74, the group that just opened up. So everybody just needs to be patient. It's going to be a while to get through everybody, especially right now while we still have to do the 2 doses. We're hopeful, as probably all of you are, that the Johnson & Johnson vaccine will be coming out shortly, and that's a 1-dose vaccine, so that would be a lot easier to administer to certain populations. At this time, like Jason shared, changes are coming with vaccine distribution. The state has taken it over, and they're setting up big centers like in baseball stadiums and soccer stadiums and all in the big cities. They will have drive-up centers that they can do thousands of patients a day. In our cities and communities, a lot of what they're working with is the health centers and physician offices. They're trying to get vaccine in the office's hands. So just like with flu shots, you can go to your physician's office and get the shot taken care of. The state believes they'll have things up and running by mid-March, and we're looking forward to that in the sense that everyone throughout the state will be administering at the same time for the same levels of people. The federal government's working mainly with pharmacies like CVS and Walgreens. If you go online, you can see that they do have shots that they are giving, vaccines they're giving, even in our local CVS's and Walgreens, but you can see they get filled up very quickly. So the hope will be that they get more and more vaccines through that, and you can go to your local pharmacy and get your shot there. We have set up a system here at our hospital to vaccinate over 1,200 people per day, and we're here to help. We've told both the county, the state, and we actually we're lucky within Dignity Health, we get vaccination distributions through our corporate office too. We're what's called a multi-facility entity, and so the government is giving us our own allocation. And so that's enabled us to vaccinate more of the community than maybe we would have if we had not done that. As Jason also said, at this point, we're not sure how much vaccine hospitals will be given, and really it's a matter of sometimes on Sunday, we find out that we're going to get 3,600 doses and we have to quickly scramble to set up a vaccination, set up vaccination online enrollment and all, so we can get people in and set up our sites and get them ready to go and get people staffed and all that. So we're hopeful for the future that maybe there'll be a more streamlined way for this, but we're ready and able if needed. We'll keep giving out vaccines as quickly as we can whenever we can get it. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions?
I have a question.
Ms. Waterfield?
Hi, Sue. What's going on with the flu? Any numbers on the flu?
No, nothing. I think it really shows what we're all saying is it shows that masking works. I mean, we have not seen cases of the regular flu at all.
Great, that's good. Thank you.
Oh, Ms. Soto?
Thank you. Hi, Ms. Anderson. It's Gloria Soto. My question is, for folks who have already received the vaccine through through Dignity Health, how will they be contacted for the second dose?
Right, we are emailing and or calling everyone that received first dose and setting them up for their second dose as soon as we secure the vaccine. And we are very fortunate so far that has not been a problem. We've been able to get the second doses to everybody who needs them.
Great. And then, Jason, do you know? Sorry, Mr. Still, do you know how the county is contacting folks for the second dosage?
The short answer is no, I don't know specifically, but what I've heard from our employees that have had the vaccination is they'll get a card with follow-up information texted to them.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Yes, Mr. Escobedo?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Ms. Anderson. What's the percentage of vaccines that in Santa Maria?
Yeah, Madam Mayor, I may have, I'm looking at the Santa Barbara County Community Data Dashboard, and Sue Anderson might have more specific information, but what it shows, so they don't have it by city, they have it by region. So there's North County, Central County, South County. So the North County is primarily Santa Maria, but also Orchid, Guadalupe, and Cuyama. And so of the 61,000 total doses administered, that includes 45,000 first doses, 15,000 second doses, and of those second doses, meaning someone's been vaccinated, about 5,000 of those are in the North County in the Santa Maria area, 7,000 are in the South County, and about 2,500 are in the Lompoc San Ynez area. So we're less than half.
Thank you.
And that's the information I have too. The only thing I would add is that some of what's lacking in these totals is there's also outside, like CVS was hired by the federal government to go around and vaccinate those in congregate living facilities, such as skilled nursing facilities, assisted living facilities, and a lot of those are getting their vaccines through CVS or Walgreens. And so there is other activity going on with vaccines too that may not be in those numbers.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you very much, Sue. Thank you, Mr. Stillwell. It's always good to get an update. I know this is rather fluid, but it's great to get an update and know where we are here in Santa Maria. So let's see, we go on to regular business. Madam Clerk, could you please read the title?
The City Council will consider the quarterly financial report for the second quarter ending December 31st, 2020, and amendments to the 2020-2021 budget for personnel and operational changes.
And the staff report is to be made by Director of Finance, Ms. Harvey.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, council members, staff, and public. Tonight, I will briefly present the quarterly financial report for the second quarter into December 31st, 2020. I will be primarily reviewing the general fund, including Measure U and enterprise funds. The beginning general fund balance of $10,071,000 is the unaudited balance at July 1st, 2020. Concerning city revenues through the second quarter of the year, sales tax receipts are just over $883,000, or 7% greater than the second quarter last fiscal year. The increase is primarily due to the growth in allocations from the county and state pools as a result of the 2018 Supreme Court Wayfair decision. The decision allows states to require out-of-state retailers to collect and remit sales tax for goods sold online to customers within the state. Sales growth in autos and transportation, business and industry, and food and drug categories also contributed to the higher revenue. But those were also offset by declines in fuel and service stations, general consumer goods, and restaurant and hotel categories. Through December, TOT receipts are approximately $294,000 less than last fiscal year, and falling short of estimates by about $116,000, or 4%. Normally, the summer months produce a large portion of TOT annual revenues, but due to COVID, staff is anticipating the majority of TOT to be received in the second half of the fiscal year. NHIS receipts through the second quarter are over $449,000 compared to $626,000 last fiscal year, which is a 28% decrease. The majority of NHIS material received during the second quarter came from Langen's Cat Canyon project. The city continues to anticipate a decline in material during the winter months. The ongoing effects of the coronavirus on local economy make it hard to predict NHI activity levels. As a result, revenues are uncertain and staff anticipates nominal NHI activities for the remainder of 2021. Permit revenue is at 60% of budget, or approximately $1.2 million, and is about 28% less than the second quarter of last fiscal year. The city has seen an increase in the number of permits for accessory dwelling units in the first 6 months of the fiscal year. The year-over-year decrease is primarily due to permits issued for major developments, including Honda, Central Coast Truck Center, and Easton Apartments last year that yielded much higher fees in comparison to permits issued this year for smaller commercial projects, including the DaVita Dialysis Clinic, Clean and Dash, Dutch Brothers Coffee, and Christensen's Mattress Express. Turning to the general fund expenditures, they are at 45.7% of budget and include about $1.6 million in salary savings and a $1.5 million from contract services, namely the work on the general plan update that will take several years to complete. Although we anticipate some salary savings as a way to balance the budget, these budget savings combined with the latest revenue estimates are expected to reduce the amount of leaf transfer from $4.4 million to approximately $200,000 by fiscal year end. Concerning Measure U, revenues through the second quarter are ahead of budget at 64.2%, or $11.1 million. Expenditures are at 45.5% of budget, or approximately $842,000 under budget. Most of the budget underrun is due to vacancies in the police department. The library and recreation and parks departments are also under budget because of operational restrictions under health orders to address COVID-19. The fire department is slightly over budget due to increased overtime incurred to cover vacant positions and holidays. The Measure U budget allocations remain 90% for public safety, 5% for youth services, and 5% for quality of life. But due to the COVID shutdowns through December, 92% of Measure U expenditures have been spent on public safety, 3% on youth services, and 5% on quality of life. As for the enterprise funds, the water and wastewater fund revenues exceeded expenditures by $4.8 million, which is about $2.2 million more than last year. This variance is due to implementation of new water and sewer rates effective January 2020. Expenditures included in the semi-annual debt service payment of $746,000 of interest on the 2012 refunding bonds. The remaining principal and interest payment of $3.9 million will occur in the third quarter of the fiscal year. For the solid waste fund, revenues exceeded expenditures by nearly $1.2 million. Operational expenses are about 11.1% or $1.2 million greater than the previous year, but revenues are up 17% or $2.1 million. The transit fund revenues are less than expenditures by about $355,000, primarily due to pending receipt of grant revenues for operations and capital projects. Fare revenue is down 94% or $379,000 due to the city waiving transit fares to assist customers during the COVID pandemic. The city waived approximately $231,000 of fares from July through December. The farebox ratio through the second quarter is 2.7% and would have been 15.7% had fares not been waived. In conjunction with the second quarter financial report, staff is recommending 5 budget amendments presented for council's consideration. That concludes my staff report, and I'm available to answer any questions.
Any questions of Ms. Harvey?
I do.
Yeah. Ms. Waterfield?
I'm looking at all the under budgets categories, and the only one that's over budget is the fire. With these under budgets, a lot of them are due to vacant positions. So if we start hiring, that is going to completely reverse back to being over budget. Is that correct?
Thank you for the question. We would, if we start hiring today, going forward, we would still have salary savings because we've planned for those positions. Mm-hmm. Most positions are planned for the entire year. So we would still have the savings that we have incurred or have at this point. We would have less savings at the end of the year. So we wouldn't be doing it at the same rate.
Okay.
So what we've asked departments to do is that if they are looking at hiring a position, that they do a thoughtful analysis of whether they can sustain that position going forward, not just to the end of the year, but on to the next year and further out, because we do know that prior to COVID and all this crazy things that we've been going through, our budget was still structurally had a deficit. And so we know that we cannot maintain those, all positions that we believe that we would need with the revenue streams that we have.
So is it safe to say that during this COVID and working from either our desk in the office or working from home, did we discover that there was positions that we weren't in grave need of? And did other people step up to help out and take on more responsibility, eliminating a position?
I'm not sure that we could say that overall throughout the city. Are there cases maybe of that? There's possible, there could be. I think that what departments have done is for budget reasons and for staffing
Survival.
levels going down lower because of having people out with COVID or symptoms, that they've evaluated what is their core duties, how can they do it more effectively, and they've done the best they can with that. Having said that, I do know, just like what Sue Anderson had said, people are tired.
Yeah.
And we are getting stretched very thin. And so, it's how long can you maintain that level? And so there are things that each department is having to look at and to see how do we best do that and still stay within budget. And that's why I think we're seeing more people, more departments looking at, can we hire and can we make that, is it something we can do something different, or can we go ahead and do that?
Because being out in the community so much and talking to people that run businesses, they don't have the luxury of having government pay for everything. And so I've been asked that question out there in regards to, I've been asked that question about, getting tired and worrying about everything and being stretched as far as you can possibly be stretched. And yet, government depends on the little oil pumps called people and business and local business to provide everything that they get, their salaries, their benefits, all of that stuff. So it's, it's tough when, you sit here and you see a budget coming through, but then when you talk to people who provide the money for the budget and you see them go out of business and having such a hard time, I just needed that question answered. I thank you so much, Mary.
Any other questions, Ms. Harvey?
Yes, I have a question,
Oh,
Madam Mayor.
let's-
This is Cordero.
Yes, Mr. Cordero.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mary, the overage in the fire department, how much of that is due to, if you know, how much of that is due to the city not being reimbursed by the firemen that were sent out of the area, and how much of it was due to COVID replacement?
Thank you for that question, Councilmember Cordero. The majority is the amount that will be reimbursed for the overtime that that the firefighters have gone out on wildland fires, and that is reimbursable to the city. There is a lag time in getting that refunded, paid back to us. So that's where the big difference is. As far as the amount as far as covering for vacancies and that, I don't have the specific numbers on that, but I did look at that. The overtime, like I said, in particular, was the heavy hitter.
Okay. but I guess my question here is will this deficit right itself to some degree when the reimbursements come through?
Yes, it will. And there have been some other vacancies that have occurred in the latter part of the second quarter in the fire department, and that is also expected to have some salary savings, and that was why we were able to do one of the amendments that's being recommended as well.
Okay. Thank you very much for clearing that in.
Thank you.
No questions.
Oh, no questions?
They've been answered. Thank you.
And any questions, Mr. Escobedo?
I do have.
Go ahead.
Oh, yeah, there we go. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just have a comment. I think that, the main priority from what I hear from the community is public safety and how we feel comfortable in our city. And I know that every single organization in the government and the businesses and everybody is struggling, as Ms. Era Waterfield mentioned. And I just want to find ways to make sure that we can provide a quality and good service to the community, and just that's my from my point of view the most important the thing that we have to keep in mind in this process. So I just want to let you guys and everybody know it.
Thank you, Ms. Harvey. I really thought this was, it's like treading water, and I thought this was much better than I would have anticipated. So, and I thank you very much. And I always want to thank you because your reports are so easy to read. So I really appreciate that.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. Any comments, Mr. Stillwell? Okay. Madam Clerk, do we have any requests to speak or written correspondence?
No, Madam Mayor, there are no written communications or anyone attending who is requesting to speak.
So I'll bring this back to the council for discussion and a motion. So did you want to present the different recommendations then? The changes and/or amendments?
If there's any questions,
Is there
I
any
certainly
questions?
can
Okay.
answer any questions on the amendments.
Okay, so discussion and/or a motion from the council?
Okay, I'll go ahead and make a motion to adopt resolution approving amendments to the 2020-21 budget for personnel and operational changes for the second quarter ending December 31st, 2020.
I second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, to adopt the resolution. If not, Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Councilmember Waterfield.
Aye.
Councilmember Escobedo.
Aye.
Councilmember Cordero. Councilmember Soto.
Aye.
Madam Mayor Patino.
Aye. Next item will be a report by City Manager, Mr. Stillwell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and members of the council. The next meeting of the City Council is March 2nd. It's, at this point, a relatively light agenda. We were hoping to pull together a community presentation on, but it's either AT still or a mental health with the police, but it's difficult having a community presentation with the Zoom. So we don't have that solidified at this point, but we do hope to have a community presentation. In addition, we have a closed session of pending litigation and landmark committee appointments with the interim membership by the Recreation and Parks Commissioners to assure we have a functioning landmark committee. That concludes my report.
Thank you. And could you give that information, Ms. Waterfield, so that tomorrow morning she can, and I forgot to ask because we really need to fill that, the landmark committee. And so people in the parks and recs are stepping up to fill those positions temporarily, but we need to get, Mr. Zamitis has been doing a great job all by himself, and we need to get that filled, those
And Shirley
filled.
Contreras had a great article about his dad and the business, and Jim Zamitis in the newspaper recently, too. Just
Question.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
Have we received any applications from the community?
Yeah, I can give just a brief update on what this item will be. So we've had ongoing applications, ongoing recruitments for Landmark Committee applicants. And we tend to, as the mayor mentioned, Jim Zamitis has been a stalwart on that committee for a long time. And other committee members come and go. We've been having a difficult time having a quorum for a few years now. I don't think we may have had maybe one other application come in, but to assure, if we do get another application, we could appoint that person, but also to assure that we have a quorum to be able to take the action. A couple Recreation and Parks Commissioners have agreed to serve on both Recreation and Parks Commission and the Landmark Committee. And that'll allow us to do the business of the Landmark Committee. The most pressing one is to designate the Smith Enos house there, which will allow us to complete the construction of that and get grant funding for that.
Jason, can you tell the audience what the Landmark Committee does?
Yeah, so the Landmark Committee does a couple things. Essentially, it's looking at the historic assets we have in our community, the houses, the buildings, the other historic things in our community, and works to designate those, preserve them, and make note of them so we can respect, understand, and appreciate our historic assets.
Perfect, thank you.
Yes.
And how, another question, when would be the deadline to submit an application for that committee?
Right now, there is no deadline, so it's
As soon as
open
possible.
until filled, open, yes, yes.
Thank you.
So the next item is the oral reports of city council members. And Mr. Escobedo, can we start with you?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. So on the February 4th, I was part of the Showing Up for Racial Justice Santa Maria's Community Dialogue with the Racial Justice Committee of the Santa Barbara County Public Defender's Office. It was a really interesting conversation, and there was a lot of good information. Earlier today, I attended a briefing on federal relief package for state and local governments, represented from the National League of Cities and the League of California Cities. Update a little bit about legislation that was introduced last week by the U.S. House Oversight and Reform Committee, which proposed funding for state and local governments under the COVID-19 emergency and aid reconciliation package. So that's something hopefully that might affect possibly in our city. So nothing done, nothing installed, but it was really interesting to hear that. And another thing that I would like to bring to the in regards to situation that happened with that involved the fire department and the code enforcement. Sorry, the code enforcement and some businesses that in regards to the heaters under the tents, and there was some friction there, and I was able to hear from both sides, and just want to make sure, and as it was presented in the earlier today, that we try to keep us a good relationship with the businesses, with the community, everyone. So Santa Maria is a pretty business-friendly community. I think that's personally, if I was eating in a restaurant and suddenly a fire truck shows up, I would a little bit freaked out. So, just maybe take off immediately. So just trying to find ways to really good communication so we can avoid these frictions and just let the rest, the city succeed and thrive. So those are that's everything I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Cordero.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to assure the public that I'm not in the chambers because of an abundance of concern for my colleagues there, that I've been out of town, and so the only reason I'm there I'm not there is because I'm self-quarantining. I've attended one meeting with the United Way, and that's all I have. I'm waiting to get my second shot,
So when's that happening?
the 24th.
Okay,
No,
good.
excuse me, the 27th. It's a Saturday.
27. Good. Ms. Waterfield?
I don't have no report.
Okay, Ms. Soto?
On Thursday, February 4th, I also attended the Surge Community Dialogue where they invited the county's, the county public defender's office. The conversation was really around, implicit bias, racism, and how all of that really impacts criminal justice system. And then on Thursday, February 11th, I was a guest speaker for 3CE, the Central Coast Community Energy. They invited me because they had a Spanish forum where they were talking about, the new enrollment process. And so it was just an informational forum in Spanish. And so I was able to hop on and just talk about the excitement, how excited the city of Santa Maria is to be a part of this aggregate program. And so that
Did you get a lot of participation from the community on that?
They've been having these for a couple of months now. I think since November.
Okay.
So they've been on and off. But even if they don't have like a huge number of participants that night of, they stream it via Facebook Live. And then itself saves on Facebook. And so people can go later, at a later time, go and watch it on social media.
I guess what bothers me is that even for the older people, even these meetings aren't that accessible, so that they can watch on TV, but to do that they aren't that accessible. So I was just wondering how the participation was.
Yeah. Oh, and Councilmember Cordero, I'm also getting my second COVID vaccine. I get it tomorrow, so I'll keep you posted on how it goes.
Okay, good for you.
Okay, February 3rd, I attended the CADCA National Leadership Forum from February 1st through the 5th, which was virtual. I did the APCD hearing board meeting in the afternoon. I met, along with Mr. Stillwell, Geneva Monteleone, I guess, from Senator Feinstein's office. And, Senator Feinstein's office has really been good about always reaching out to us here and asking what we need. And we've had that done before, but when we respond, they always get back to us. And I think it's really important to have that connection. Later that afternoon, I did the updated Santa Maria Key Leaders call. February 4th, I attended the League of Cities Economic Development Roundtable on COVID expenses and generating revenue webinar. Later that day, I did the county legislative briefing. On February 5th, I attended the state funding discussion with Assembly Speaker Anthony Rendon. And this was mayors in the state of California. Of course, it was all virtual. February 8th, did a teleconference with Professor Patrick Condon on and he was talking about Vancouver, but this was all about affordable housing and how upzoning didn't create affordable housing. February 8th, did the Santa Maria Marion board meeting. Later that evening, did the Block Grants Advisory Committee with the CDBG deliberations. February, and that thing went on for, I think, 2.5 hours, so that was quite lengthy. February 9th, did the Education Workforce Development and Digital Equity Broadband with Econ Alliance. February 11th, did Creating Jobs and Addressing Racial Equity in Entrepreneurship and Webinar. And did the Honda, toured Honda, Toyota, the new construction site, got my second vaccination that day, so I'm still going to be, I'll still be wearing my mask, but I'm so glad that part is over with. And on the 12th, did the Rick Blameyer show. This evening, this is, You know, we lose members in our community who have given so much to our community. And tonight, I would like to really read obituary on Stanford Jr. McFadden. Stanford Jr. McFadden of Santa Maria, California, passed away on January 16, 2021. Stanford was born in Tucson, Arizona on November 29, 1957. He moved to Santa Maria when he was 12 years old and attended local schools, including Santa Maria High School and Allen Hancock College. After graduating from Allen Hancock College, Stanford was recruited by various colleges and played football for Sacramento State in Sacramento, California. He returned to Santa Maria and worked at All-American Beverage Company, Miller Beer, and Pacific Beverage Company, where he excelled in sales. A gifted athlete, Stanford could play any sport that he participated in with excellence. He later transferred his athletic skills to coaching youth football and umpiring for Little League, where his umpiring style of yelling "strike" at the plate was legendary and could be heard all the way down the street. Stanford loved working out at the gym and competed in bodybuilding at one point. He could be found helping others out at the gym or simply having a friendly conversation with whomever stopped by to say hi. He had a love for people and shared his time generously. His smile could light up the room. His life force was infectious, and he made you feel special when he talked to you. Stanford is survived by his wife of almost 22 years, Diane McFadden. He is also survived by his 4 sons, Cameron, Evan, Jordan, and Jared McFadden, sisters Savannah Williams, Jeanette McFadden, and numerous cousins, nieces, and nephews. A private family funeral will be held and a celebration of life planned in the spring. And in lieu of flowers, you may donate to the Boys and Girls Club of Santa Maria or District 65 Little League. And Stanford, we are going to miss you in Santa Maria because you've given so much to our community.
And you know what? I met Stanford and Rhonda. We both worked at the Community Bank of Santa Maria in the 80s. And you made eye contact. You didn't even know who the guy was, but if you made eye contact with him, he was going to be your friend forever. And he was. I mean, he was just a great, great man and just so gracious and just full of life, just full of life. He was a good man, and yes, he will definitely be missed.
Thank you very much. And ladies and gentlemen, this meeting is adjourned.